Call this meeting to order. I'm sorry about the delay, ladies and gentlemen. My computer just didn't want to do what I wanted it to. Item 1, call to order. Disclosure, pecuniary interest, and general nature thereof. Is there any? Seeing none, okay. Item 3, approval or amendments of meeting agenda. Be it resolved that council approve the agenda of the regular meeting dated June the 8th, 2021 as presented. Mover and seconder, please. Matt and Pat. Is there any amendments to the agenda? All in favor? Moved, carried. Approval of minutes. Be it resolved that council approve the following minutes as presented. Regular meeting of council, May the 18th, 2021. A mover and a seconder, please. Bill and Matt. Your discussion on the minutes, any errors or omissions? All in favor? Okay, I'm going to just fix this up a little bit here. I'm only get there we go. That's better. Okay, business. Item 5, business arising from the minutes. None. Inquiries, we have nobody from the general public. Delegations and presentations, we have none. There is obviously no business from the delegations. Item 9, staff and committee reports. Do we have any staff reports, John? None. No staff reports. Okay, correspondence for council directions. 10.1, resolution to authorize a letter of acceptance on a quote from Pedersen Construction, Inc. for the erection of a building to house the Public Works Garage in the amount of $528,000 plus $800 plus HST. This quote does not include electrical, mechanical, or plumbing. Be it resolved that the clerk treasurer be authorized to prepare and sign a letter of acceptance with Pedersen Construction 2013 Inc. for the upset fee of $528,800 plus HST to erect a metal building, including foundation for the Public Works Garage. Can we have a mover and a seconder, please? Doug and Pat. Is there a discussion on the issue? Go ahead, Angela.
Do we have any idea of the cost of the mechanical, the electrical, the plumbing, and also erecting any partition walls inside? I assume that they're going to want some.
John, can you answer that?
We've established a budget for the electrical, the mechanical, and plumbing as a separate budget, and a 9% contingency budget on the project. And we're soliciting the best contract rates that we can right now to do that as an owner build. We found that this is the best way to go, especially when we have a prefab building and a concrete foundation that goes along with the prefab building. So that's the methodology we're using.
Okay, and what did we budget for that?
I can give you the budget, but that might be tipping off anybody that happens to be watching that's wanting to quote on this. So if you want me to do that, I will do that.
No, I don't think that's a good idea at this point in time. You can get that information by calling the office, I guess, and we can get it to you. Bill, you had your hand up?
Yes, through you, your worship. On the building, I just have a question on the mechanical aspect. So we have a mechanic that does work on some of our equipment down there on our trucks. Now, I don't presume you're going to be putting a hoist in there, but I do presume there'll be a pit that he can go underneath if he has to go underneath a vehicle. Has that been taken into consideration before this goes up? Or I don't see anything on the drawing. That's all I've got is the foundation drawing, but I don't see anything regarding that aspect in the mechanical part of it.
when we complete the mechanical pricing and items in there, we'll share that with council. Likely will not be a pit. Those things are sort of not in favor anymore. And a full hoisting device may not be within the budget, but there will be some kind of hoisting equipment provided in this project.
Bill? Yeah.
Yeah, and that just as a follow-up, okay, the no pit, yeah, I understand that. There's been issues for sure. But like I was thinking about overhead crane or something like that, a small 5-ton crane or any of that. Has that been taken into consideration?
No, a 5-ton crane, overhead crane would have to have a engineer design on the trusses. So no, it won't be an overhead crane.
It'll probably some sort of self-contained lifting device, like an A-frame type of thing, Bill. Angela, you had your hand up? No? Okay. Is there any more discussion on the project? Questions? Okay, all in favor? Carried. Okay, 10.2, resolution to opt in to the framework of an OPP detachment board for the area served by the Temiskaming detachment. Be it resolved that the town of Cobalt accept the following opt-in resolution in full. And the rest of it is all on your packages there if you want to. I'm sure everybody's read it all. We need a mover and a seconder. Angela and Joe. Is there any questions? Bill?
Yeah, through you, your worship. What I see here, are they going to be looking for a representative from each council or what? That's one thing I don't see on the package I got anyways. I'm not sure if I missed it.
That framework hasn't been decided yet. That's going to be decided once we know who the participants are and how many people are involved in it. We could do similar to what we have with the health unit or with the DSAB, where one representative represents 3 or 4 municipalities. Or we could have one from each municipality, but it's going to make for a larger group. Go ahead, Bill.
Well, since we're opting in, I would like to know, I think a couple of representatives or one representative from each council for the Temiskaming area isn't an overwhelming issue. I just think that it would be nice to have somebody from council on that board with all the issues.
Absolutely, I agree with you 100%. Any other comments? Well, once we get this set up, we're definitely going to be looking for a volunteer to sit on that board. So it's going to be what, a meeting, it'll be quarterly meetings plus one general meeting at the beginning of the year. So all in favor of opting in? Carried. Thank you. 10.3, resolution to renew the contract for animal control for an additional year. Be it resolved that the town of Cobalt renew contracts for animal control for an additional year with Animals First, Temiskaming Shores and Area Animal Service, Roxanne St. Germain. A mover and a seconder? Bill and Pat? Discussion? Bill?
Well, actually, I had my hand up because I had a question before we voted.
Okay.
Is there anybody else in the Tri-Town, before we renew a contract, are we obliged to put it out for tender? There may be somebody else. That's what I'm wanting to know. Her term is up and there may be somebody else that might be interested. Do we know that, or do we have any knowledge of that, or do we know somebody that might be interested?
I don't know if anyone else does. But I don't know, if you want to stop the process, we can, go ahead, Joe.
I would like to see it go out for tender. See if we can get somebody. We don't know if someone's qualified, but we put it out there. We may have somebody apply with the qualifications. Competition is always good.
Okay. Any other comments? Angela and Pat.
I just know in the past it was very hard to find anybody, but regardless, if is there any way a discussion could be had with Roxanne about getting some weekend and evening coverage? Because it's almost like people know that after 5 o'clock and weekends, it tends to be a free for all as far as people putting their dogs out. And the problem is exponentially increasing. Because what happens is one person puts their dog out, lets it bark and bark and bark, and somebody else says, well, I'm not going to keep my dog in the house if it's going to keep barking, because now my dog's going and it's in the house, so I'll just put mine out. And the last couple of weekends have just been a little bit brutal.
Okay. Bill and Pat. Sorry, Pat.
Well, now that it's true, your worship, now that the contract is up, if we can't find somebody, I hear Councillor Att said, I kind of agree with her. I got some issues down here with that too. Perhaps maybe the contract could be written for weekend coverage. Since this term is up, if we can't get anybody else. I do agree with Councillor Dubé that it should go out for tender, because there could be somebody out there that possibly could fill this position, and I think it's the right thing to do.
Okay. Go ahead, John. Pat Anderson, sorry, let Pat talk here. Pat?
Yeah, as far as the contract, we went for many, many years with not being able to get really appropriate service, which I feel that Roxanne's group is doing. This is the first time we've ever had an animal control that doesn't take the animal and kill it immediately. This type of thing. They're doing so much in rescue, spay neutering, to prevent the spread of the cats especially. And they're looking after spay neutering for people that can't afford it. So she's doing an awful lot. You can't stop dogs from barking all the time, I'm afraid. It just doesn't work. But you do your best. And that should be up to the owner to do their best too, to give the attention to the dog so that it doesn't need to be barking all the time. But I feel that Animals First has been doing a pretty good job for us, much better than any other time I've been on council.
Douglas? You're muted, Doug.
There.
There. No, you're not.
Now I'm not. Firstly, I would like to thank Councillor Anderson for her comments. I agree entirely with her. I haven't heard any comments from my neighbors in opposition to our current animal person. I think she's doing a great job, a very credible job. I'm certainly very, very happy to renew it if it comes to that. But I think as a question of a simple way of doing business, it's always appropriate to ask for tenders before we award a contract. So I'll go in favor with Pat and I'll go in favor with Joe. Thank you.
Okay. Angela, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I'd just like to point out, the issue is it's 5 o'clock in the morning, 5:30 in the morning, 10:30 at night, 11 o'clock at night. And yeah, dogs are going to bark, but you know what? Sometimes some owners need some reminders about responsibility and their neighbors. That's all I'm saying. I have nothing against the job that Roxanne has done so far, but we definitely need a bit more enforcement and some visits to some of the dog owners in the area.
Okay, so then we're going to vote on whether we're going to accept this contract. Or sorry, Joe, go ahead, John.
The contract right now that you see in front of you is for 1 year, starting January 1st. So we're actually heading into about 6 months left. I don't think it's proper to have somebody working with OTA contract. And it's been delayed for too long now. But my suggestion would be that you approve the contract for this year, and that'll give us a few months to go out for tender, review tenders, and come back to council with a recommendation, and also some time to speak with the animal control officer about some of the shortcomings that people have expressed.
Okay. Matthew?
Thank you. Through your worship. Under working conditions in the current contract, it actually outlines environment exposed to adverse weather conditions at times, exposed to abusive language and threatening behavior of the public in emotionally adverse situations, and work schedule. Work schedule may vary and include days, evening, nights, and weekends. So I think it's a matter of communication as well, what our expectations are, and just making sure that as a municipality, we're staying on top of it to get the most out of our fee for service.
Okay. Anyone else? Pat, go ahead. Go ahead, Pat.
Yep. Sorry, I missed on the
Okay.
clicking there. For, the dogs barking late at night, early in the morning, have those complaints gone in to council or to the town office with times, dates, and where the dog is and stuff like that? Because if the complaint doesn't go to the town office, it doesn't get acted on. We can complain about our neighborhood, but those complaints have to go in, so.
Absolutely. Okay. Angela, last time.
I did have a discussion with our clerk, or it's John, about this, and expressed my concerns that it was escalating. So yes, it has gone to the town office.
Okay. So we want to, is there any more concerns, comments? Bill, do you have your, go ahead.
Yeah, through you, your worship. I support Councillor Atsett because I had some of the issues down here too, and they happened on the weekends. Was reported to me. Now I can't say whether it was reported to the office. I told the lady to report it to the office. I'm not sure if it was, but it was on the weekend. So I am in support of Councillor Atsett that we need to step up a little bit more enforcement on those types of issues.
Okay, so now we've got 6 months left in her contract. So all we're doing is, this should have been done in January, I guess, but fell through the cracks. So we're just doing catch up here. So do you want to terminate this contract now, or finish the 6 months and then we can follow your lead and give council direction? Go ahead, Matt.
I believe it'd be in our best interest to continue for the next 6 months, but when this does come up for renewal, that we follow a posting procedure and ensure that we're getting the best candidate for the position. Roxanne's done an excellent job and she can apply just as any other vendor can, but I believe that protocol should be followed.
Absolutely. Doug?
I agree with Councillor Johnson. I think by far and away we should continue with the current contract. I don't think we would blow up a contract for a few complaints from citizens, or even a lot of them. We'd work with the individual servicing us to ensure that any issues are corrected. And I think that's the way we should proceed. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there any more comments? Okay. Now I'm going to also remind you that anytime we do have a problem, if the office is not made aware of it, we have no way of reacting to these things. Okay. Even though people tell you they're calling, we have to verify that they have done that. Okay. And if you ever have a chance, go up and visit her facility up there. I was up there. It's a very nice facility. She does a very good job as far as I'm concerned too. So all in favor of finishing this contract? Carried. And so the next animal control contract, we will definitely go for tenders then. Okay. 10.4, council to consider transferring its 51% shares to Solar Inc. for the solar farm, and further the town will charge $10,000 yearly for the lease of land to Solar Inc. Be it resolved that mayor and clerk be authorized to affix their signature to the documents required to transfer the ownership, shares, and responsibility for the solar farm to Solar Cobalt Solar Inc., and further that the property rental fee of $10,000 be paid to the town yearly be set for the rental of land. Mover and the seconder, please. Pat and Joe, discussion. Angela and Bill.
Is there a term, a life of this agreement, or is this like perpetually, or?
Go ahead, John, if you can answer that. I would say as long as they have their equipment there.
I believe the term is 20 years.
Okay. Doug, did you have, or Bill, sorry.
Yes, through you, your worship. I think, well, although 20 years is a long lease, but at least we get $10,000. I don't think there's been any money, or we've made no monies at all on this project. So $10,000 for the rental of the property is better than nothing. So I agree with it. The only thing is, I just have a problem with a long lease like that. 20 years seems like a long time, but if that's what it's been negotiated, then, or if that's what they want, I don't know. I don't know what the rest feel, but it seems like it's a long lease for 20 years. So,
Yeah. Well, if I'm not mistaken, I think we're probably 5 years into that already. So, and we have not received the nickel. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. Okay.
Matthew, did you have a comment?
Yes, through you, your worship. What's the size of the parcel of land? Do we have that?
No, we don't offhand.
So how
It's-
did we, who came up with the dollar figure, and have we based that on any type of land value in the area, or is this just a number that was thrown at us?
This is a number that was thrown at us as far as I'm concerned. The parcel of land is right next to what used to be our dump. So I don't think it has a whole lot of value as far as resale. And that's the reason, one of the reasons why it was chosen for that purpose. Pat?
That's mine hazard land as well, so you can't do anything else on it. So getting some money from this finally is a good thing. It was, we thought this was going to be such a great deal, and it really didn't work. So
No.
We'll get some money anyway.
Doug?
Thank you, Your Worship. I was wondering, and our partners in this proposal have noted that there would never be a profitability until such time as the debt for its construction has been repaid, which I think I have a number of something like 14 years for some reason in my mind. But I'm also wondering, what would be the likely life of the equipment that's out there after the 14 years? Would we have to renew a bunch of it and go back into debt to do that, which would again forestall any kind of foreseeable profits to the future? I note we've had a number of people, including our auditors, suggesting that we should take a close look at it and our exposure. And in their opinion, perhaps it would be a very good idea to divest our partnership. So I'm going to vote for it. And I like Matthew's question about what is a fair rental value for the property. It would be fun to know how $10,000 arrived at. Was it what they thought they could pay? Is it something that they thought would be in their favor? Would it be the best for our favor? But it would be fun to have that looked at and find out before we do too much more.
Yeah, sure. Well, okay, Bill.
yeah, through you, your worship. I just, with this lease, this $10,000 a year, you're saying here you're divesting 51% of your shares. So I would assume that we have no responsibility with the equipment, right? Or if we're giving up our shares, we're getting $10,000. I see here just for the rental. So if they don't pay us our $10,000, say they default on the payment at year's end, is there an option in the lease that we take it over and that's it, or how does that work? Like, I don't know any of the details of the lease. I mean, it'd be nice to know a little bit. I just want to make sure that we're protected there.
Okay, I'm going to let John answer that question.
Further to Councillor Wilcox's amount, it's 13 years, so that was close. There will be a provision in the lease that if, let's say, they halt or stop using it, that they are fully responsible for removing it and all the costs of removal. The term of the lease has not been set yet. We were referring to that 20 years as referring to the original lease on it. So they will assume all responsibility for all equipment and closure, and be responsible to pay $10,000 a year on January 1st of every year, and we'll be coming up with a term on that lease.
Okay. Okay, and I'm going to answer maybe a little bit of Councillor Wilcox's question about the condition of the equipment up there. Councillor Dubé and I had made a visit up there some time ago when there was a maintenance crew up there working on it, and some of the panels are beginning to delaminate. If you can, hey, Joe, when we were there, and a lot of the actuators that control the actual movement of the panels were breaking down, and they were having a hard time replacing those. Actually, Joe gave them an address that he thought they could source them out, but we haven't heard back from them. So the equipment's not in the greatest of shape either. So that answers any questions. Go ahead, Angela.
Are we going to decide as a council what the maximum term of a lease when it's negotiated is going to be, or is it the final lease coming back to council for approval? How is that going to work? And I agree with Mayor Othmer. If you drive by on a sunny day, there are some panels that are actually pointed completely in the wrong direction or straight to the ground that aren't even tracking whatsoever.
Okay, I'm going to let John answer that first part of the question.
The resolution itself gives the mayor and myself as the clerk treasurer the responsibility to work out the lease term. Now, my expectation is that it wouldn't be coming to council, but the council would be informed on the lease term. The $10,000 was a discussion that was held with the folks at Solar and the municipality of Kapuskasing. So there will be a number of items that have to happen here, very strategic legal items where board members have to resign, new people have to be appointed. So it is a complex area, and we're just at the beginning of the negotiations, but they're anxious to get it done, and so are we. So that's where it stands now.
Hey, Angela.
The only reason I ask is there's a lot more in the media right now about solar energy and the possibility of the government stepping up their efforts in that again, which to my mind, business-wise, means that the potential for profit is going to go up. And that's why I'm concerned about signing in for a long-term lease at a set amount without any possibility of renegotiating down the road. We've hung in there for the bulk of it while we were waiting for the construction costs to be paid off to see a profit come about. It would be a shame to tie ourselves into a minimal amount when it may be worth a lot more than that in like 10, 15 years. That's my only concern.
Okay, well, we can, in discussions with them, we can try and see what we can get out of them, sure. Another concern that I have with this thing is that it's all great and fine that they were supposed to make money, but what happens when it starts to lose money and we get stuck with a big bill? That could possibly happen also. Go ahead, Joe.
Also in the discussion when we were up there, they were saying the power that those solar panels absorb and put out to the grid is very minimal to any other ones. They'd have to upgrade everything to start making profit. Remember that conversation, George?
Mm-hmm. Very much so. Okay. Any more discussion on it? So all in favor of continuing our discussions with Solar? Okay, all carried. 10.5, Fire Department Staff Hiring Recommendation. Be it resolved that the Town of Cobalt support the hiring of Grant Bro Neto as a volunteer firefighter. Mover and the seconder, please. Matt and Bill, discussion? All in favor? Thank you very much. I'm sure the fire department would be very appreciative. Okay, correspondence for council direction. Council to review the Cobalt constructed wetland strategy session summary report. Be it resolved that the attached strategy summary report be accepted as presented. A mover and a seconder, please. Doug and Joe. Discussion? Go ahead, Bill.
Are we closer to getting approval? Or C of approval or certificate?
We haven't heard anything at all. Have you heard anything, John, that other than we're going to start talking to them?
It's this report and what comes out of the report after the experts meet that will be put forward to work towards our approval.
Okay. Any more questions? Okay. All in favor? Carried. 11, bylaw, final reading of bylaw 2021-8 for the franchise agreement with Enbridge Gas Inc. Be it resolved that bylaw 2021-8 that was given first and second reading on February the 16th, 2021 be given a third and final reading. Mover and a seconder. Doug and Angela. Discussion. This is just housekeeping, finishing off the third reading. All in favor? Carried. 11.2. Consideration of bylaw 2021-23, a bylaw that gives administration guidelines through policy on indigent funerals, cremations, and burial rights. Be it resolved that bylaw 2021-23 being a bylaw to adopt an indigent funeral, cremation, and burial policy be taken as read a first, second, and third time and finally passed this 8th day of June 2021. A mover and a seconder, please. Doug and Pat, let's discussion. Bill?
Yeah, excuse me for my ignorance on this, but what do we mean by, what does this mean by this? Like, what do you mean by guidelines through policy or indigent funeral, cremation, and burial rights? Why has this come up, or what's the problem here? I have no idea why this is being brought to council.
It's not a problem, but it's another housekeeping matter that has to be taken care of. I'll let John give you the details on it.
An indigent person is somebody that has no means of support or no family, so that when that body goes to the funeral home then has the opportunity or ability to ask the municipality to share in the costs of the burial. So it's a policy where it gives us guidelines when we do get a call, and we've had 2 calls in the last 4 months from people on certain issues. So without a policy to give us guidance, we're just going on past practice. So past practice means indigent folks who have no means of support or any family rest with the municipality that has the cemetery.
Okay. Any more comments, questions? Bill, go ahead.
Through you, Your Worship. Not trying to be difficult here, John, but what if that person has no fixed address? Is the community responsible? I mean, if somebody passes away here that just happens to be somebody who's drifted through town and stays for a week, and then all of a sudden something happens and he passes away, are we responsible or have to pay part of the debt for burying him or cremating him?
Short answer is yes.
Okay. No more discussion? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Okay, 12.1, schedule of accounts. Be it resolved that council receive the following schedules as presented. Schedule number 2021-10 in the amount of $243,313.15. Mover and a seconder, please. Angela and Matthew. Any questions or discussion on schedule? All in favor? Carried. Motion for which prior notice has been given. None. 14, mayor's report. I have nothing. 15, notice of motion. 15.1, consideration for passage at the next council meeting is a bylaw to regulate the renting of residential premises for the purpose of protecting the health and safety of the person residing in the residential rental premises by ensuring that certain regulations are met, that the required essentials such as plumbing, heating, and water are provided for ensuring that the residential rental premises do not create a nuisance to the surrounding properties and neighborhood, and to protect the residential amenities, characters, and stability of residential areas. Now, we have a package, I believe, that's got a lot of information on it. If you could take the time to go through that, and if you have any suggestions or comments or concerns, please forward them to the town office and we'll get this all put together. Okay? And we'll discuss it more at the next meeting. John, did you want to speak on that? A little more?
No, except that what we've sent out to council is fairly broad and some of it not specific at all to Cobalt, but it gives you a general idea what's happening in different municipalities, and we'd like to tailor one for Cobalt with our unique situation with rental units. For instance, if an owner decides they do not want to have water, gas, hydro, anything, sewer, they have the right to do that. If there's a tenant, then the landlord must provide that. So there are some little areas where people are living without the necessities of life, and I think there's an issue here that should be addressed by a bylaw.
Thank you. Go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, through you, Your Worship, I think that's a good consideration for us to consider. But when you talk about residential premises, are you talking about multi-residential, or could be anything? Could be just say, I decide that I'm going to rent my house, or is that going to be applicable, or is it just for multi-residential units?
Single and multi.
Okay, Matthew?
Through your worship, I believe that this is a very useful tool considering the very low purchase prices for property here in Cobalt and the seemingly large number of out-of-town or absentee landlords that we have. Further, in the downtown core in particular, I believe this tightens up on a lot of the issues that we're currently having. I've watched over the past 4 years someone who calls themselves a property manager duct tape windows, for instance, and provide open flame heaters for sources of heat. And the list goes on and on. So I believe that this is very necessary in our town, and it's going to tighten up on those issues. And it'll actually have our absentee landlords put a bit more money into these properties, and thus creating a better living space for their tenants themselves.
Absolutely. Angela?
Okay, so we addressed it's for multi-res or single residential rentals. What about people who are renting rooms? Does this apply as well? I just want to ensure that it does.
Those are the comments that we're looking forward to hearing so that we can have them prepared for the next council meeting.
Okay. Well, do you want me to put it in writing?
No, we know. Duly noted. Okay, any more comments on that? I think that is a very, very good step that we're taking there, and I think it's going to go a long ways to hopefully stopping some of this stuff happening. Councillor updates. No one? Oh, sorry. Did I? Matthew?
Nothing. Nothing.
Oh,
this
okay.
meeting,
Okay.
Your worship.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Council questions and answers? None? No closed session, no business arising from closed session. Go ahead, Bill.
Sorry, Your Worship, and it's true you. I just had one question. I don't know if maybe I might ask a question here on the way we're doing our business here. We have something and then we come up for vote. and then discussion. Is it possible we can put discussion before we vote? Because I put my hand up and right away, it looks like I want to, pass the motion, but I would think that the discussion would be more appropriate before we do the actual vote. I don't know if that's okay, but I don't know what the rest feel about it, but I think it would make things easier.
Hey, John?
The way the agenda is laid out, the discussion should always happen before the vote.
Yep.
So we have to change it because it's not happening. We're not doing the discussion before the vote.
Yes, we are. We have a mover and a seconder, then we do the discussion. Matthew?
Yes, Your Worship. I was just going to add that
Oh.
we move and second the motion, we discuss, and then we finalize it with a vote.
The motion can't be discussed until it's moved and second, Bill. And then
Okay.
it's discussed and then we have the vote after. Any other comments?
you.
Bill, go ahead.
No, just thank you, Your Worship. Thanks for the
Okay.
clarification.
Okay, you're welcome. Okay, the confirmation bylaw. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2021-24 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council of the Corporation of the Town of Cobalt be taken as read a first, second, and third time and finally passed this 8th day of June 2021. And further, that said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and recorded in the pay book. A mover and a seconder, please. Bill and Pat. All in favor? Move, thank you. 21 is adjournment. Be it resolved that the regular meeting of council be adjourned at 7:17. Mover and seconder. Doug and Joe, all in favor? Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. And I guarantee you, I will get my computer repaired and we won't have this problem next time. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Okay. Still recording.